Showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats.
Showtime!
Please make your way to your seats. The show is about to begin.
Showtime!
Let the magic begin.
Tweak to Schrödinger's cat equation could unite Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics. So
I thought of you when I read this. You're like, oh, magic. It's magic. Yeah. It's hocus pocus. But this could potentially link or eliminate that, or at least help to bridge that gap. So first off, the Schrödinger cat paradox illustrates how quantum superpositions don't seem to apply at larger scales. So the authors of this article have added new terms to cause spontaneous collapse, and I put that in quotes, from quantum to classical states. So what this does is it introduces a transition between quantum and classical physics that aligns with what we observe in the real world. Larger systems like cats, and even like the whole universe, they all appear classical. Quantum only applies when you get down to the atomic level, kind of thing. So the modifications that they're proposing have little effect on small quantum systems, but it induces a rapid collapse in larger objects. So it allows both quantum and classical physics to coexist. And if validated, the Schrödinger tweaks could open doors to finally unifying quantum mechanics and general relativity in an intriguing concept. But it requires, obviously, like anything that's changing and like any changes, it requires rigorous scrutiny. So there's going to be a lot of challenges. Testing the predictions will be challenging. In order to test them, we may need some creative new experiments to probe that transition, the quantum classical transitions. And obviously, we're going to need a lot of collaborations here with a lot of smart people way, way smarter than me. Not that I'm very smart. Revolutionary ideas like this are obviously going to meet skepticism. But there's always changes, and there's always going to be skepticism with any kind of changes that kind of get introduced, especially something as so well known as Schrödinger's cat. So, it'll be interesting to see.
So I like to quote this article here. So such effects are stronger on larger systems. Crucially, these modifications have little impact on a microscopic quantum system such as atoms and molecules, but allow larger systems like the universe itself to collapse at frequent intervals, giving them definite values that fit within our observations of the cosmos. So when we're talking about the universe collapsing, are we talking about like it's collapsing on a regular basis, or are we talking about something like the Big Bang?
Based on what I've read, I think we're talking more about the Big Bang. I don't think we need to worry about it collapsing on itself. But I don't know. I don't know really. Because again, we're talking a theoretical change. We're talking quantum again, which is also theoretical for the most part. But I think it's more talking about the Big Bang than an actual collapse. But it also says spontaneous collapse occurs frequently. So, yeah, there's a lot to digest in this article for sure.
Absolutely. So this is like just reading this is, very interesting. Instead they propose that each system state undergoes spontaneous collapse at regular intervals, leading to acquisition of defined values of some of their attributes. That could mean, almost anything. The new model may explain why our universe space-time geometry doesn't exist in a superposition of states and obeys the classical equations of Einstein's relativity. So Einstein always had a problem with, how can observing something affect the state of it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So I guess we should talk about how the tweaking will allow the objects to be in two states at once on the quantum level, but not for larger objects like cats or people. So the standard Schrödinger equation, that only applies to quantum mechanics, and it applies it evenly across all scales. But it predicts that cats can be dead and alive simultaneously, just like subatomic particles can. But we never actually observe such superpositions at the scale, at human scale, right? So the modifications are trying to account for this transition. And then the new terms added cause the mathematical, they were added because the mathematical behavior to change based on the scale of the system. So for tiny quantum systems, the new terms have negligible effect. But for larger objects, the modifications dominate and cause superpositions to rapidly collapse in a definitive state. So their hypothesis is that self-interactions in large complex systems induce this mathematical transition from quantum to classical. So in essence, it's imposing scale-dependent effects that emerge from the underlying math. So it's, again, we're talking theoretical and we're talking really, really advanced and complex math, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I have questions. If
I'll try to answer them.
if this turns out to be true, does this mean everything is ultimately based on quantum principles rather than classical physics?
Yes. So this is, I'm so glad you asked this
Or in
question.
layman's terms, if this turns out to be true, is the universe based on magic rather than real science?
I knew so yes. And again, this is based on my understanding and my research. So if the proposed modifications are correct, it would strongly suggest that quantum principles are fundamental across all scales. So the modifications introduce quantum collapse dynamics, even in large scale systems like the universe itself, which implies that quantum effects are universal. Classical physics would emerge as an approximation of quantum mechanics for large complex systems, according to this perspective. So rather than classical physics being the underlying reality, it would be more of an effect that emerges from the quantum realm under certain conditions. So the quantum to classical transition introduced by these equations means classical physics is no longer entirely separate. So, but again, and the cool thing about this is it does align with growing view among physics that quantum mechanics is the foundational framework that applies to all sizes. So again, there could be other interpretations of this, but this research direction definitely points towards a universal quantum principle rather than classical physics being fundamental. Like flip the world on its side, flip everything on its end, because quantum mechanics is the fundamental mechanics or physics of everything, potentially.
Yeah, so we sit back and we think about this for a second. So we've got quantum computers able to analyze any particular thing and say climate, the world, war, politics, whatever. You can throw it at all these things. If observation affects the future, once we start observing things at a quantum level, are we not making the future into what we want it to believe?
Oh, you're getting meta on me now. I don't know. Could
just
we
by observing it, does it not make it happen? By programming a computer to do this analysis to show that the world is going to be, I don't know, let's just say pollution free in 2030 and projecting it out there and say this is, will that actually make it happen?
Well, I'll pose a question back to you. If observing it, do we change the outcome then? Would if and this is we're getting really quantum here, but maybe if we observe it and the world was going to be pollution free and we observe it and now the world's not going to be pollution free.
Yeah, maybe. I based on everything we're saying, that's not how it works. It works is that what you observe first off is what happens, is what it is. And we have to sit back and say, by observing, you've made that multiverse, that thread, this reality exists. These are the types of things that the multiverse is based on. You open the box, the cat is dead. That's one track. You open the box, cat's alive. That's another track.
Yeah.
So, by using quantum computers, by using the science, by predicting a future that is this way or analyzing it this way, are we actually going to make these things happen? Does this go down to a level of maybe, and now hear me out here for a second, maybe the people who wrote The Secret and Willing Thing and Mindfulness and bringing all these things and mentally bringing these things into your life had something?
Yeah. I potentially. It reminds me of a movie with Ben Affleck where the guy is a reverse engineering, and he reverse engineers this thing, and that's essentially, I can't remember the name of it, but that's essentially what we're talking about here when we're talking about observing, like when we observe it, right? So who knows? This is again really cool. Disrupting physics and quantum. Always love disrupting, so really interesting.
Yeah, that was an interesting movie. I can't remember what it was called, but they had the crossword puzzle filled out under the bird's cage, and he left clues for himself everywhere, which was interesting. But yeah, once you start observing a future, are you making that happen? Are we manifesting it by our thoughts, our visions, our will? Or is this all hokum? I really
to see where it's all hokum. You know what though? It could be hokum, and because it's still all theoretical, right?
What do you got going on, John?
I don't have much. The only thing coming up is on May 30th. I've got the Sunrise Social, which we talked about on the weekend on May 27th. So
that's not true. It's May 30th is Startup Drinks TO, and May 31st is the Summer Bash from, you called it the Sunrise Social, but I think it's the Summer Bash from the National Crowdfunding Association.
Oh, no, sorry. I was talking about the non-tech related Sunrise Social Yoga.
The morning one. Yes, you did. Is that May 30th?
No, May 27th.
May 27th. Great.
Oh, and by the way, I don't think that date is right. I think that's what it was last year, May 31st. I don't think it's been scheduled yet. The NACO one.
Oh, the NCFA. Okay, I'll reach out to my contact there. And,
I'd love to go to that kick. I love that. That was a great event.
Yeah, the National Crowdfunding Association, Craig Asano and Lauren Litton, who work hard on that, and there's a couple other people. Forgive me for not remembering everybody's names, but they're a great team of people, and it's always a good event. Yeah, and if it's not May 31st, if it's a different day, I'll probably go. So I'll reach out and talk to them because it's always a good time. And if it's later, I'd like to see if we can give a ticket away at our May 30th Startup Drinks event so we can promote it a little bit. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And if people want to know more about how to get funded, government funding, grant programs, that kind of stuff, where do they go?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jon Irwin, JONOH Irwin, IRWIN. Pretty easy to find. Feel free, reach out to me if you have any questions on non-dilutive funding.
And I mentioned startupdrinksto.com. We do startup investor drinks, open bar, pizza. You get up to 20-second pitch. You can pay for more, but there's investors and founders and mentors and funding experts. It's a great time. We do it once a month. So definitely come out and see us there. Yeah. If you're struggling with your business, go to startupcoach.ca, see if I can help you get unstuck. But I'm about to launch a course in June about productizing your knowledge. So if you're a knowledge worker, subject matter expert, or a technical guru, and you're trying to figure out how to turn your knowledge into a course, a book, or a coaching program, I'm launching a course to teach you how to do it. It's the clearest method to get the knowledge from your head into a course, a book, or program. And I'm launching that in June. The first cohort will be 50% off. I've already teach some individuals, and the feedback has been great. So if you want that, go to startupcoach.ca, reach out to me. I'll put you on the email list, and we'll get you started. It's a really fun program. I've got all the templates. It really within a very short period of time, you can take your knowledge and turn it around in a week or 2 weeks, depending how quickly you want to work on it.
Love it.
All right, that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We are talking about moving these to Thursday mornings on a regular basis, so stay in touch for that, and hopefully like and subscribe on wherever you are.